Welcome back, everyone. We're back for another episode. John Brown and I are here to talk about some of the most pressing issues that are facing owners of closely held, privately held, family businesses, so that we can try to think through some of these more sort of thorny issues and see what kind of solutions we would suggest and that we are seeing in the sort of planning community. And John, I think you had a topic that you wanted to talk about today. What do you want to talk about?
Speaking of pressing issues, here's the scenario. An owner comes to you, Elizabeth, you're the advisor, and says, I'm burned out. I want to get out of my business today. How do you proceed?
This has happened before.
Yes, it does happen.
So advisors out there are thinking, I know that guy.
Yeah.
That has happened in my practice. And if it hasn't yet, it will. And I've gone as far as having clients who are having sort of essentially a mental breakdown due to burnout. It can be very, very severe. So the pressures are enormous in some cases. And, I realize that there is a planning process. The first thing that my problem-solving brain goes to when an owner says, I'm burnt out, is that they're doing a lot of things. There's probably something we can do about it. Sometimes burnout is a little bit of a self-fulfilling prophecy in that we take on a lot. We make ourselves responsible. We fail to delegate. And then we crush ourselves beneath the weight of our own responsibilities. And when an objective person comes in and says, but do you really need to be doing that? Then we can sometimes step back and see. So if this owner comes to me and says, I'm burned out, I need to get out of my business, there are technically things I could do to help them get out of their business tomorrow. But what I'm probably going to do is focus on the burnout piece of the statement and less on the getting out piece, just so I can maybe make some immediate progress. And while I'm not a business coach, it kind of sounds like that person is maybe a good candidate for a business coach. So I might be bringing that person into the loop to take maybe a closer look at what's going on in the leadership and management of the company. There's a lot of programs. A lot of them are good. I don't have a particular one that I support, but I think that owner sounds like they need one, and they need to really focus on even lightening their load. Think about a person who is overwhelmed. If they adjust their balance of responsibilities by even 5%, it can make a massive difference in their ability to function and to sleep at night. So that's where my problem-solving brain starts to go. The same person comes to your office, John, and says, I'm burned out. I want to get out of my business today. What's the first thing you're going to think?
Well, a couple of things. If somebody comes to your office and says, I'm burned out, that's a little unusual. Probably a better signal or sign of that is when you ask an owner client, how are things going? They're going to say, I'm really busy. And if you pursue it by saying, you know what, maybe we should step back a little bit and see if we can help you with that busyness. I'm too busy to plan right now. Don't bother me. That to me is a signal, or maybe a little premonition that this owner is going to become burned out if they're not already burned out. So we should probably start looking at some of the possible solutions. As Elizabeth mentioned, I think it's a great idea to work with a business coach or some other business advisor, perhaps close to the owner, who can talk to the owner about what steps the owner might take to not be totally preoccupied with the business, not be totally burned out. So it's a difficult topic to broach, but that's a good warning sign. I'm too busy to spend much time with you now. And that's probably never going to change unless we help that owner do something about that. So I guess that really is the first thing that I would focus on. In terms of being actually too busy, they might in fact be too busy. So what we have to look at is how can we relieve some of that pressure. A business coach is one idea. Maybe bringing in some additional support, hiring some people or a person could also bring some relief to the business owner. If they're too busy to do interviewing, we can hire a search firm, for example, for a higher level employee, just to try to relieve some of the pressure from the owner, because until we can do that for her, she's unlikely to do any planning with us.
Right, and I would say, just to sort of continue on that line of thinking, the sort of outsourcing opportunities that are available today compared to even 5 years ago, but absolutely 10 years ago, are bear no resemblance at all to what we did in the past. And so I would say today there really isn't any excuse for a failure to lighten the load a little bit, because there are less committed, less permanent arrangements that are highly professional, very high quality, and highly skilled in very specific areas. And so whether it is managing company operations or financials or accounting, or it is managing company distribution or even HR responsibilities, there are outsourcing opportunities for all of those. And so I might not recommend that the business owner is the perfect person. So I think when you say we can help them hire a search firm, that's really where we as advisors can make a real difference. Why don't I introduce you to? Why don't I ask around and find out who other people are using, or what sort of outside freelance service people are using to get access to this particular skill set. And that way the advisor is the solution bringer, instead of saying you should probably hire somebody. So
that's hard for them to. They're not going to take the time to do it. That's
part of the problem. No, they don't have time. So if we can say, I believe that this service will help you, these outsourcing vendors and freelance services and independent contractor sort of accumulators are all really, really efficient now. And we use a bunch of them at BEI, and I'm aware of a bunch more that I can recommend to business owners. So I do think that's the direction to go. What we're saying is business owners are, if they're too busy, if they're able to articulate that they're burned out, if they're heading for burnout, or if they say, I need to get out of my business now, those are basically just all different versions of the same message. And what we want to say is, let's get some help. Let's get it now. I, as the advisor, will take a leading role in connecting you with that help, even though I'm not the one who's gonna do your company's financial statements, but I'll get it to where you don't have to work as hard on them.
Yeah, I think that's great, and I think in a future podcast we should talk about, well, what do we recommend that a business owner do with her business to reduce the overhead or reduce the workload on the owner. So that. Yeah, we have some solutions, don't we?
I think we will. So we can definitely be more specific about it. Ultimately, this is why we plan. We are here as advisors to help business clients understand what the problem is, and then identify possible solutions, and then, even more importantly, implement those solutions. And these are things that busy owners just cannot do on their own. And this is where the value is that advisors bring. So if you're an advisor who's listening, make sure that you've got your awareness and your network of people that you can reach out to ask about resources and who you can connect with your client. And then if you're a business owner and you're listening, then you want to make sure that your advisors are well connected and that they have access to other specialists so that they can hook you up with those specialists and not say, I don't know, that sounds really difficult. I don't want to work with an advisor who doesn't have access to resources that I can benefit from. Okay, good. Well, John, that's a good topic. It's really important. There are a lot more podcasts to do on this. We just scratched the surface of it, I think, today. So stay tuned for more on the topic of the burnout owner. It is a huge problem, and it's getting bigger. Thanks for being here today, John.
Thank you, and thank you for listening in.
See you next time.